Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Yo, what's poppin', Rush Nation? Welcome to another Flagship Show. I say that like there's more. We should just go back to the old 5 Yard Rush. It's just you and I now. There's no one else. The other podcast studios are empty, and it's like the olden days. How are you, my man? Happy birthday week.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, and thank you for my lovely present, which unfortunately I won't lie. I still haven't tried it on. I keep meaning to do it. It's on the side. Well, because I opened it and then was in a hurry to pack because I was away for a couple of days afterwards, and then got back, and then just catching up with 2 days of work in one day, or 3 days of work in one day. But yeah, 39. So big one next year. Which is a bit crap.
We've had this conversation. We vary greatly on the number situation, like rattling towards 40 for both of us. I'm not far behind you. I think it's much more traumatic for you than it is me.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm closer as well. But I think my wife hates it. It's probably her least favorite week of the year because she gets lumbered with my birthday and Father's Day now in the same week.
Yeah, my dad's birthday is actually today. So, Dad, I know you're not listening, but happy birthday. So yeah, his is Father's Day and birthday within 2 days of each other.
And he could get the double, so he could end up with both on the same day, right?
I suppose so, because Father's Day moves, right? It's fluid with the Sunday. It's always the Sunday.
Yeah, it's always like this, the Sunday of this week.
So I suppose statistically it must have happened.
Yeah, I'm sure like 2 years from now, it will be on the 14th, right? I don't think they'll hold it over to the 21st. So yeah, I think 2 years from now, he'll be double whammied.
You can, Rush Nation, you can tell it's the off season. You don't even know if you are listening to this and you haven't checked out the title of what's listening. You're just next up. You still have no idea what we're talking about today. So congratulations and welcome to the show.
I didn't think we were talking about anything today. I thought we were just going to just talk about Father's Day and my birthday, which is, I'm not going to lie, my birthday is like one of my favorite topics of the thing in the world to talk to. So,
well, I mean, I've always had that thought where a good podcast would just be me and you seeing what happened, basically a current affairs podcast for the gone week, and then we just talk nonsense for an hour. But I mean, my birthday is around Easter, and it has never fallen on Easter Sunday. My birthday, the closest I've got is a Saturday.
That's no bad thing, though, to be honest, because you don't want to lose. You don't want to be trumped by Jesus.
You've met me, right?
Thanks, boss. Thanks, Steve. Champ, the man who beat me in Warrior Bowl 1, is wishing me happy birthday. The champ is in the house. I'm not bitter, but I do wish that title was mine, even now, 4 years on.
Bitter pill to swallow. A bitter pill.
Steve's a great. I tell you what, couldn't have lost to a nicer bloke. Genuinely couldn't have lost to a nicer bloke. So rather have not lost, but at least if I had to lose.
That's true. Shout out to everybody who is technically watching live right now. If you're not watching live and listening, come over and watch next time, because this time we won't be live when you listen, but come over and watch because it is good fun on the YouTube. And those that are watching, kudos to you, because we know the Euros have just started. So
yeah, I think the game's already over. Just because I think Germany have scored. So it's game over. So if you're watching the Euros, like, it was competitive for 14 minutes. It's 1-0 Germany. And that's it. So you need to know it's the end. Scotland won't score 2 goals, and that will be the end of that chapter. And I can't wait till someone clips this up when Germany lose famously to Scotland 2-1, and this will be aired on Twitter. And for the second time in a month, I'll go viral. So yeah.
Well, good news is no news is good news, or all publicity counts? One of those two.
I don't know. I'd rather have not been the face for Man City's goal when they scored to win the title.
Yeah, but
there you go.
You're famous now.
Well,
I say now. You were famous before that. Let's be honest. You've graced the cover of magazines and all sorts, Murf. You're being too honest. You're modest. You're being too modest.
Anyway, we'll move off from this. I hope everyone enjoys their Father's Day. For those who don't know what the title is,
we're ranking restaurants.
We're ranking restaurants. About time. Pizza
Clear
Hut's
number one, Harvester. Oh, controversial.
Well, I was. I was joking.
So was I.
Joking. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
It was awful.
I was going to say we both went for like bottom tier restaurants.
I actually went to Pizza Hut last week. It wasn't that bad. They still do the buffet.
How much is that now?
Pricey. 20 quid.
Get out! It's £20.
It's £20 on the weekend.
It's
£16 on the weekday.
I'm disgusted.
Yeah, mate. Absolutely, you're disgusted. Do you want to know what a large pizza is if you go and sit in Pizza Hut?
Well,
and keep in mind, I don't live in London, so keep in mind that your local Pizza Hut will probably be more expensive than mine.
I couldn't even tell you where my local Pizza Hut is, but I know a Domino's is about £21 now for a large, I think.
Right, so if you order it delivery, it's cheaper because you're not paying for the whole retail and sitting in, etc.
Yeah. So
they whack the price up like 30% to eat in.
Do not tell me a Pizza Hut large pizza is over £25.
$28.49, kid.
Oh, no one goes to Pizza Hut to pay £28 for a large pizza. They're cheaper in an actual pizza restaurant. And yes, I know Pizza Hut is what the name suggests. It's a pizza place. But come on.
Yeah, $28.49 for a large pizza to share in Pizza Hut. So you can get the buffet. It only lasts till 3, and at least that's like 20 quid. And that's unlimited.
So you can't
drinks,
even get
unlimited drinks, unlimited ice cream, factory. Which, by the way, is an absolute joke now. It is just a soft serve with 4 toppings, which are all the cheapest, nastiest kind. It is proper budget.
I listened to a podcast. No, I think it was a radio show today that said, when do you turn into your dad? Like, do you remember turning into your dad? And I think I just did, reminiscing about the old Pizza Hut buffet. And
there you go. See, that's why I brought it up. Great discussion point. And yeah, it was fine. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, $28.49 for a large. If you just want to get a large pizza with nothing else in a Pizza Hut, is an absolute joke. So to offset that, one of the presents I got for my birthday was a pizza oven.
Oh, no.
Now, but not like the really expensive pizza. So here's a consumer advice tip, right? We're well off the rails 8 minutes in. So I didn't realize this was a thing until about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So you see like all the adverts, and if you watch Bluey, you see them with the episode with the pizza oven, right? And you can get like those pizza ovens that look quite portable. They plug in and they're good. And they're like 150, 180 quid, right? You can buy like a home-based one for like 120 quid. There's ones that go on your barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
They're exactly the same. Exactly the same. It's the same pizza oven, same concept. The difference is it doesn't have a plug. It goes on your barbecue. 40 to 50 quid.
There you go.
So if you want a pizza oven and you want something affordable, if you have a half decent sized barbecue, i.e. not one of the small
round Webbers,
right? Or
other brands are available.
Yeah. Well, Weber's a nice brand, but I'm talking about the crappy little 3-legged one tripod things you get at like Tesco's or Tesco's. By the way, for our American listeners, is like I want to say it's a cross between. Well, they do region. It's really weird because they do regional supermarkets. So they don't have like massive national supermarkets there. It'd be like a cross between a Winn-Dixie, which is semi-national.
Hang on a minute. No, stop. We're this podcast is the train wreck. But you're telling me that Target isn't all over America?
No, but Target's not a restaurant. Target's not a supermarket. Target is a store. You can't buy all of your groceries at Target. It's mostly like Target is like
No, yeah, okay. What's the
Clothes,
other one I'm thinking of?
electronics, like you're
What about
thinking
Walmart?
So Walmart's pretty close. I would still say you can do most of your shopping at Walmart, but I wouldn't say that is exclusively a supermarket first. I would say that is a retail store that sells quite a lot of food.
Okay.
Whereas Tesco's is a supermarket first, but these big ones have other things that you can buy, like clothes and stuff. Again, Walmart's probably the closest thing to it, but then that's owned by Asda, and we could get into some consumer rights issues if we carried on down this road. Or Asda owned Walmart. Walmart owns Asda. Yeah, it's something like that. Anyway, long story short, you can get the ones that go on your barbecue if you've got a half decent sized barbecue. So you can have a barbecue and pizza day in one go, and it will cost you 50 quid.
Can you use it on coal or gas?
Coal or gas. I have a coal barbecue, so because I used to have gas. That's fine, but it used to annoy me with the canisters.
Yeah.
So now I have coal. So so coal barbecue. So when you come up, mate, we'll have a pizza day.
Sounds good.
So there you go. If you've always wanted a pizza oven and didn't just didn't want to shell out 150 quid, there you go. I've just saved you 100 quid pretty much.
As long as you've got a barbecue.
As long as you've got a decent barbecue. And then that incline then goes to the weather and need to have decent weather. And we're nearly 12 minutes in and haven't talked about anything fantasy football related, so people have definitely turned off.
No, they haven't. People come here in the off season for good advice and top banter, and you've had 12 minutes of top banter, so I suppose it's time we talk about today's show, Murph, like you were just about to allude to before I took us off on another spiraling turn towards topiary or something unnecessary.
It is 2-0 Germany now, so people watching that game will definitely turn off.
Which is why we've got a spike in numbers. Welcome in, everybody. You've missed absolutely nothing. Today we are talking about current ADP, and is there any value to be had if you're drafting at the moment, Murph?
Yeah, so obviously it's an interesting one. It's still really best ball season. Few charity leagues are kicking off. But us fantasy degenerates are starting to take a turn to redraft, starting to have a think about early ADP values and where people are going. And I think if you're doing the prep at this sort of time of year, you're going to have an edge up into draft season because you're going to see, for me, when you're getting ADP data now, this is like the really serious player ADP, right, that we're going to talk about. So this is everybody who kind of is significantly invested and in a lot of cases financially invested in fantasy football. Most of the money in fantasy football goes on the line. Take DFS out of the equation, right, because that doesn't involve drafting. But most of the money in fantasy football tends to go on the line in between now and the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. With all these best ball contests that are going on. And it's been pouring in since March. So this is really good ADP to go off because you have people that have significant money on the line, or maybe some don't, but they put their own money on the line. So, and I get it, there's going to be some differences because you're going to have players who have significant upside be taken slightly earlier. You're going to have the consideration of stacks, potentially meaning that players move up the board a little bit. But having said that, you need to look at this sort of exercise as an outcome exercise. And what I mean by that is you have to look at the ADPs now, and this is where the community is telling you where they think these players are going to end up. And there's going to be some players on this list that will fall in ADP as we hit redraft season. And there are players that are going to spike in ADP. And so I guess what we're going to do through this exercise as we go through this is look at players that are potentially going to rise and fall. Who's a good value now? Who is overpriced right now? And give a bit of commentary as to why we think that. And I think that gives people a good steer on what we know. Now, listen, circumstances change. Preseason and camp changes things. People are going to come out of the wilderness like they do every year who aren't on anybody's radars, and they will be later on. Get all that. But I always think that if you're constantly monitoring ADP, and I don't mean monitor ADP as in to follow it religiously, it's more about developing your strategy. You're going to be in a good spot in, 4 weeks, 8 weeks time when you're doing your drafts. So that's why we're doing this. And there's some that you can just absolutely take to the bank and go, yeah, that's fine. And some that I think I'm looking at this thinking, I don't get why they're there. So let's cut through this. Do you want to talk about round one as it stands right now? We're doing PPR scoring, by the way, because that's most of the leagues that are being run. So it's better data.
Yeah, and we're also getting this off of Fantasy Pros. We're using the Fantasy Pros ADP if you wanted to follow along whilst
and
they're
these
doing
were
it.
updated yesterday.
So
it's as fresh as it comes.
Yeah, the 13th of June for those who are listening audio format are not quite up to speed with the pod. I mean, absolutely, I could talk about round one. I'm going to be point blank honest, Murf. This is the first time I've looked at this ADP in a little while. So outside of round one, you're going to be teaching me or suggesting stuff that you think's high and low, because my head's been not in the sand, but I guess what would be the opposite to an ostrich, burying it like in a windmill, running round and round and round, and absolutely no idea where they are, something like that. Yeah, the thing that bounce out for me round one instantly is when you look at the average of these players, the first 12 players, and people tend to play in 12 to 14 team leagues, the average is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like this, it is almost as if the first round you might as well auto print that in at the moment to your drafts, whether or not it is basically how you want to play it as to who you're going to pick. But according to the average, everybody's going in exactly the same position. So we've got McCaffrey at 1, Lamb at 2, Tyreek Hill at 3, Jamar Chase 4, Justin Jefferson 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bijan Robinson at 7. It's obvious that people are scared of running backs again so far this year, Murph. Normally we see a few more running backs go early. Yeah. Obviously, CMC's just got that new contract and is unbelievable last year. So it's no doubt that he's going to go at 1. But then there's a massive run of wide receivers, which in previous years, we tend to see running backs go early because they want the guarantee of having a stud. Whereas now I think people were sort of hero RB at the end of 1 and then stacking up on wide receiver after. So yeah, Bijan at 7, then Breece Hall, Puka Nacua at 9. I have a question about him in a second, Murph. AJ Brown at 10, Garrett Wilson 11, and then Jahmyr Gibbs rounding out the first round of 12. Puka Nacua obviously last year exploded onto the scene with the Cooper Kupp's injury, and it was unsure what was going to happen with Kupp and throughout the start of the season anyway. Is there a world this year where Cooper Kupp regresses to the mean and becomes the wide receiver 1 again for the Rams, and Nacua falls away from what I think is quite expensive at 9?
No.
Okay.
I mean, that's silly. There is a world. Of course there's a world. But I don't see it. I'm just looking at where I've got Kupp. I think I've got him bottom end wide receiver 2. I'm just checking that.
I'm just looking if I can see him.
I have it 25, wide receiver 25. So yeah, that sort of 2-3 cut line, and I'm okay with that. I think you've got to realize is that there's a couple of different forces in play. The first one you've got here is that Cooper Kupp is getting on a bit in age, and he's had some injuries in the last couple of years, and that's not factoring in I'm not thinking he's going to miss a lot of games. I'm just factoring in that I think they're going to drop his usage a little bit, because I think they obviously have a talented weapon in Puka Nacua, and they feel pretty good about that. And I think that's, when you strike gold and you have that, I think that's a really important piece to keep going, but especially as Puka Nacua is that he is the franchise going forward. So the thing you got to think about here, there is every potential that Cooper Kupp could be cut from this team next year. So we're looking at it. They have a potential out this year of, after this year of 22.6 million in cap. He's going to count for 30 million against the cap next year. And then in 2026, he counts for 27.3 million against the cap. So they've got 2 more years where they're putting on another. It's like if they keep him, you're looking at 60 million. I mean, they're not going to keep him in. There's an argument to keep him next year because they could get rid at the end of 2025 and only take a hit for 7. So I don't see them keeping him in his age 33 year in 2026 for an extra 20 million. So you're looking at this. This is the beginning of the end of Cooper Cup, right? We got 1, maybe 2 years of him left. I can see a case for cutting him and saving 7 million. I can see a case for keeping him, depending on how he gets on this year. And then with that in mind, the organization is going to look at this. Are the LA Rams going to win the Super Bowl this year? Probably not. I'm not. Can't ever rule a team out before a ball has been thrown, but realistically, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. So they've got an old quarterback with a dodgy back who is on the way out in Matt Stafford, and you've got a aging wide receiver on a lot of money. So I think this team is going to start thinking about this transition. And then that's where I think Cooper Kupp's still going to get a lot of volume. He's still going to get a lot of play because there isn't much else behind them on the roster. But Puka Nacua is the future of this franchise, and they're the one they're going to feed targets to.
Nice.
I don't have a problem with the nuke. I mean, I don't have a problem with the Puka Nacua price. I have him as finishing as my wide receiver 6. He is in this at wide receiver 6.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that. With that price that is there at all. So I get it. It looks expensive, but I get it. I don't have a big problem with that. Because I see him and Brown, and then after that, I have a player who's not even in the top 2 rounds, bridging the next tier. So I have, to go through my rankings. Okay, so I have Hill, I have Hill ahead of Lamb. But look, I have Hill quite a bit ahead of Lamb. I have Hill in a tier on his own. And I love the upside there, but I can see the argument for Lamb. I'm not going to go there, but for me, I've got Hill and I've got a bit of a gap to Lamb. And then I have Chase, which people be sitting there thinking like, why are you going Chase over Jefferson? The consensus is doing that. The ADP at the moment is doing that. And that's purely because we know what Chase is. He's been paid. There's going to be a bit of a seed change at and I know Jefferson's just been paid, but we know there's a bit of a seed change in the quarterback position in Minnesota. It's going to take time for them to get up and running. It's going to take a bit of a hit early. And then also, I just think that situation is better for Chase than it is for Jefferson, especially with the quarterback attached to him. He doesn't have Kirk Cousins throwing to him this year, Jefferson. So that's a big drop-off. Then I actually have Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jefferson. I have them split by about 12 points. So if you believe in the upside and the talent, I don't hate it, but I would be taking Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jefferson. And then I do have Nacua and AJ Brown. So I don't have a problem with any of those wide receivers in the first 10. I don't have a big opinion. I have them out maybe by a position, but I'm okay with that. Where I have a big problem is Garrett Wilson at 11. I don't understand in what world Garrett Wilson is going to be fit, is a first round pick in fantasy football. I don't get it.
But why?
I barely have him as a late second. And and if I'm honest with you, I'm looking at like the players I can get around that range, like for similar points values. Like I have him returning a little bit more, but ever so marginally more than like Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle. Like I have him a little bit more. I have Tank Dell scoring more points than him. I have Deebo Samuel scoring more points than him. I have Mike Evans scoring more points than him. I have Devontae Adams scoring more points than him. I just don't have enough to want to get Garrett Wilson. I said this last year, I don't really want Garrett Wilson on many of my fantasy teams because you're requiring Aaron Rodgers to be peak Aaron Rodgers for that pick to return value. Now, Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in a year. And when I last saw him, he didn't look great. Arm is in decline. He's a 41-year-old man. And people will say, well, Brady this, and Brady did it till he's 45. The difference with Brady is he never had any form of upper body injury in his career. And he played, 12, 13 years without injury? Pretty much. He had the ACL in, 09?
Maybe.
So, and he had a suspension for 4 games, but he pretty much played exclusively his career without injury. So while he was a 44, 45-year-old man, his body was less so because of the lack of injuries. Aaron Rodgers has had a significant amount of injuries. He had a significant injury to get over. We don't know what he's going to be like. You are taking Garrett Wilson thinking he's got MVP Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
There's just too much risk for no upside. That's my issue with that. So to take him in the first round, I think is just I just think it's madness. I genuinely do. And then Gibbs, I also think is madness. I just don't. I like Gibbs. I think Gibbs is going to have a good season.
Yeah.
He's not the lone back there. So you're taking a running back who's not the lone back. I just think that's a little high. Over Jonathan Taylor, I think is madness.
Yeah. And even Saquon.
That I don't mind as much. I kind of have Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon back to back. So I don't have a big problem. I have Gibbs slightly over Saquon, but I don't. I could throw a blanket over Gibbs, Barkley, and Etienne in my projections. There's 2 points between the 3 of them. So you pick and choose your poison there. But I have them way back at the back end of the second round value for me. So there's other players that want in those 2 spots. So those first 10 picks, I don't really have an issue with any. The only one I would say is Bijan over Breece Hall, I think is mad. I have Bijan Robinson as my RB5. So I'm not taking Bijan there, but if you highly believe in the upside, then I don't hate it because we're talking about early second to mid first. It's a leap, but it's not a stupid leap. I don't sit there and go, that's as bad as taking Garrett Wilson in the first round, but I wouldn't do it. I'd much rather have Jonathan Taylor than Bijan Robinson this year, but I know that's a very unpopular opinion, and I'm okay with that. But I do think that I think you'd be mad to take Breece Hall behind. If you had a choice between Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall, and you don't take Breece Hall, I do think you're a bit mad. I do. I think. Look, people love Bijan, right? They love him as he's the hotness. He's in a fun offense. He's got Kirk Cousins, who we don't even know what Kirk Cousins is like. He's still injured. So it's a whole new offense, effectively. With a new quarterback, you have to almost call it the new offense, new offensive coordinator. It's going to take time. I'm not buying into he is going to be, whether it's Breece Hall with a knackered Aaron Rodgers. The same reasons I don't like Garrett Wilson in the first round is why I love Breece Hall as the RB2.
Yeah.
So, I don't love Bijan Robinson there, but I half get it at least. The Garrett Wilson ones, I don't. So anyway, we'll move on to round 2.
Well, but before we do, Murph, before we do, we often talk about ideal draft spot, like where would you want to draft from if given the choice? Where, with the first 10 picks being basically a lock and you happy with him here or him there and they're not much in it, is there a spot you think And this leads us on to round 2 and so forth. Is there a spot where you think I'd like to draft there because the players coming to me in round 2 could be a value because I don't rank the players that went at the end of 1? Is that?
I would like to be in the first 9 picks. I think if you're picking at that 5 to 9 range, you're probably going to get a really good player on the back end.
Yeah.
I don't see a huge drop in 5 to 9 in terms of what you're getting. Like if 5 to 9 is Jefferson, Brown, Bijan, Breece Hall, and Puka Nacua. I don't see a huge drop between. I mean, like I think for me, I'm looking at this thinking if Amon-Ra St. Brown is like 6'7", that would be like amazing. And then to come back and get someone like Jonathan Taylor, like if I could start Brown Taylor, that would be phenomenal. Like I'd sign up to that in most of my drafts next season.
Yeah,
I'd take that to the moon. Thanks very much. I'd cash my chips now and take that.
I think I want to be. There's very few years where I think I want to be middle of the draft, and actually, I think this year, if drafting right now, based on what I've seen, ADP we're looking at, I think my team would be a great built in the middle, because I think
and I think for me, I'm looking at this and I think there's a drop at around about pick 16, 17.
Yeah.
And then there's exceptional value in the 3rd and 4th rounds. So I think if you're getting back, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So you're probably looking at 8. 8 is probably the ideal spot. Because if you can get 8, so okay, you miss Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you're looking at, say, Breece Hall, Puka Nacua, and you can come back and get Jonathan Taylor or Olave or Adams. I'm pretty good with that. And then I will think about what to do next. I don't mind the receivers in the second round. The running backs is where it starts to get a bit tricky, but let's get into it. The second round, because I think that will help define the strategy a little bit more. I hate the 13th pick in Marvin Harrison Jr. I think you've got to be, and we talked about this last week, right? Where I totally understand a Cardinals fan picking Marvin Harrison Jr. Right? Don't have a problem with that. It's your team. That's your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. You play the game how you want to play. But you are paying a ridiculous cost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is never returning the ADP there. Like, he's just not. On an offense that isn't very good. It's not a great offense. You got an aging running back in James Conner. You've got a very young, inexperienced running back who needs some work in Trey Benson. You've got wide receivers of Marvin Harrison Jr., Rondale Moore, and who's the other one there? The fact it's not
Michael Wilson.
Michael Wilson, that's it. So the fact is that's your depth chart of receivers. So yes, you have Kyler back. That's exciting. But I don't love that. I mean, they're actually saying at the moment, they signed Zay Jones. That was the other one I was thinking of. Yeah, I don't have Rondale Moore. I thought they did. I thought he got traded there. Maybe not. Who am I thinking of? I thought he got traded there from Atlanta. Maybe they traded him to Atlanta. I don't know. I can't remember now off the top of my head. They got like Greg Dortch, Zay Jones is who they've signed there to play in the 3. Like, it's okay, but it's not inspiring you a load of confidence. And I think that Harrison is going to need a foil on the other side, and he's not got that. Wilson's quite a smallish receiver. Zay Jones is a small receiver. Like, you can double cover Marv quite effectively, and I think that's going to hinder in an offense I don't think is amazing, as we saw last year. They've not taken a huge step forward. So I think you're paying a premium there. I love Drake London probably more than most people. I'm not taking him at 14. That makes no sense to me at all. You're buying him at a ceiling of a player who's a couple of years in the league and isn't proven. And the argument that someone's going to throw to me is, well, he's got Kirk Cousins throwing the ball, but how fit is Kirk Cousins? So I don't love that. I love Jonathan Taylor at 15. He's a first-round player for me, so mad. Chris Olave, I think, is probably a little high, but he's not stupid high that I think it's unreasonable. I think he's in this range of receivers. I've kind of got him. I've got him, Adams, Evans, Deebo Samuel within about 5 points of each other. Excuse me. So I don't have a problem. Like if that's the way you want to go, I'm fine. Adams is there. Ayuk, I don't have Ayuk over Samuel. I think Samuel's the guy they're going to keep. I think Ayuk, we can kind of realize he's in his last year. I think the way that Samuel with his gadget play and everything else, I think we're going to see more Samuel than we are Ayuk. So I'm not sure I'm taking that one there. Nico Collins, who's obviously got a big contract, that's boosted his ADP massively. I still think if I had to choose between him and Tank Dell, I'd probably take Tank Dell. I think those receivers are going to be pretty close. And I think that Tank Dell is the much cheaper player. And how many times have we said on this show, if you've got the option between two receivers, two players, or even two running backs that are fairly similar in what you think they're going to get as an output, always take the cheaper one. So that's what I would do here. Saquon Barkley's at 20. I worry about him in Philly. I also don't think he was particularly great last year. And he's injury prone. Am I taking him as the RB6? I mean, I've got him at RB10. So, no. But mind you, I've got Gibbs at RB9. So, I think there's better values. So, I wouldn't take him here. Waddle is Waddle. I'd have Mike Evans over Waddle. Debo I'd have over Waddle. And then you kind of got these next generation receivers here. So, Devonta Smith is creeping into the second round. I don't love that, but it is what it is. There's other receivers I would have over him, but that is what I guess that is what it is. I have Drake London quite a way down. I have him at wide receiver 26 this year, by the way. So
oh my goodness me!
I'm a long way out. Well, I don't understand. Like, I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed in Atlanta now, and I think they're all going to find their feet, and it's going to take them a bit of time.
I don't disagree. I just the fact that where he is right now at wide receiver 10 is way too rich for me.
Yeah, and I think it's mad. I genuinely and you will be hard pressed to find a bigger Drake London fan than me. I think we talked about it on the show when he got drafted. He was my wide receiver 1 in that class. I genuinely think this kid has got everything. He is a bit injury prone, but I think he's genuinely got all the talent to be an elite receiver. I just don't love the setup that he's in. New coaching staff, new coordinator, new quarterback. I don't see it, but buy in. Do your worst. I love Mike Evans at 22. I love Deebo Samuel at 23. I'd rather have those guys. It's a bit of a hit and miss round this second round. I actually think there's a lot of players that should be in this round that aren't. And I guess when we get to the third round, in fact, let's talk about this, because this third round has a lot of these players that I have second round grades on. So let's start. 25 is Malik Neighbors. Now, he's the wide receiver 19. So that's 19 wide receivers in the first 25 picks. I think you'll see more RBs go than that.
Yep.
I think this is the best ball strategy kind of coming out a little bit in the ADPs. So this is where I do think there is some variation in strategy. I think you'll see more running backs come off at this point. I also think Malik Neighbors at wide receiver 19 is absolutely mad. Because in what world, when was the last time a Giants wide receiver finished as a wide receiver? Odell Beckham Jr.?
Yeah.
We're going back almost a decade. So in what world are we sitting here thinking that is going to happen? I don't get it. You can't be in the Daniel Jones is garbage, but Malik Neighbors is going to finish as a wide receiver 19.
How does that happen? Not that happen, but how does Malik Neighbors even get into the conversation at 25?
Opportunity. Who is taking the ball from him? Now that Darren Waller is retired, so your choices are Daniel Bellinger. I'll be the devil's advocate here, right? So they're going to throw the ball 350 times. Darren Waller's gone, so you've got Theo Johnson or you've got Theo Johnston, right?
Yeah.
You've got Darius Slayton, you've got Jalen Hyatt, you've got
Wandale
Robinson, who play about 4 games. And then their running back situation, it's Devin Singletary and it's Gray. And it's what it is. Like, I get it. The argument will be there's not a lot of talent on that roster, therefore he's going to get a lot of volume. And I can see that argument. The other thought, I think, is there's no talent on that roster. You stick everyone on Neighbors, who, by the way, is trying to adjust to get into real-time speed. Are we saying that Malik Neighbors is going to be in the same neighborhood as Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because that is what this is saying. And I just don't buy it. And by the way, there's a great point here from Steve. The question is, doesn't it feel like a majority of the rookies are currently overvalued? Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Brooks, etc. And I go, yeah, 100%. And I think because we've had rookies the last few years who have struck gold, people have gone, great, we're going to chase that. Whereas when we did this pod, you and me have been doing this for 7-8 years. When we started doing this pod, we were telling people to fade rookies because there'd never been a lot of elite statistical production of rookies. And in the last few years, there has been this boom of elite production. Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Puka Nacua, which no one kind of fancied, but whatever. Sam Laporta, there's loads. But I just think that you've got to temper expectations slightly and think there was a lot of good players in this draft. I don't think there was a lot of elite players in this draft. I think we talked about this when we did the review. There's a lot of good players in this draft. I'd say there's really only 2 or 3 elite players in this draft. And they're in landing spots that, for me, are going to hinder them from being elite in their rookie years.
Yeah.
So don't buy them at their premium, because that is what you're doing. Even if... So, and let's take Malik Neighbors. Okay, so Malik Neighbors is going off the board at the start of the 3rd round as wide receiver 19, which, again, I think you're going to get more running backs, so I think he's going to push down the board a little bit. But let's take that point of you think he's going to be a 3rd round player. He is going to need to go to justify that, about 1,200 yards. And I just don't see it. I don't see it. He's going to need to catch about 90 balls, 100 balls, probably 100 balls. Going to need to catch. I don't see. He's going to need like a 30% target share. And it's going to need to be not just a 30% target share. It's going to need a 30% target share of a player who we saw a couple of years ago in Daniel Jones, where he's at the best of his ability, and not a player
falling over whilst running.
Yeah,
I can't remember who we talked about this with. We had a guest on, and we talked about the cost of rookies and how when you see a rookie class come in, their value is instantly increased because they are rookies in fantasy football. So just because they are a running back at a team does not necessarily mean they are going to be good, but we get blinded by the fact that they are a new player, a rookie on a team that potentially has an opportunity and therefore are going to be good. Opportunity doesn't mean greatness. And I think that is the Malik Neighbors thing here. There is nobody else, but that doesn't mean that because there is nobody else, it is going to work.
No. And I think that's Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that principle stands. I look at the rookies this year, and I just don't see many of them. I don't see many of them returning their ADP. I just
How
don't.
many yards did you say he was going to need?
He's going to
1,200
need like
yards.
1,200 yards, 1,100, 1,200 yards. He's going to need, and
Okay, so
I just don't
Odell
see it.
Odell
I've
Beckham
got,
Jr.
yeah.
had 1,200 yards had 1,300 yards 3 times in 2014, 15, and 16.
Okay.
And then, yeah, since then, there's been nobody.
No, and I've got quite an I think I've got quite an aggressive line on Neighbours, right? Because I do like him. I do think he's a good player. I've got him getting 121 targets. I've got him getting 75 catches and that's the difference. I can see a world when he gets 121 targets because there isn't many people to throw to. But I don't trust Daniel Jones with the degree of target that he's going to get Malik Neighbours between the double coverage he's going to see, the schemes he's going to see, because he is the threat on that team. Because don't forget, you haven't got a dynamic run game anymore in New York. You know, you've lost Saquon Barkley's gone. You've got Devin Singletary and Gray. That's it. That's what you've got. So you haven't got a dynamic running game. You don't have a dynamic tight end. So you don't really have a lot of options. It's throw the ball to Neighbours and make it work. It's similar to the Arizona argument. And it's amazing how drafters are seeing those players are like, oh, well, they see an elite opportunity. They do, but they also going to get a severely decreased target in terms of they're going to get a lower quality of target and a highly more defendable area of target. So I have 75 catches for Neighbours off for 998 yards. So I'm just missing 1,000 yards. But and here's the kicker. I have him getting 4 touchdowns his rookie year. And that's not a knock on Neighbours. That is just the way I see this offense performing. I don't think it's going to be good enough. And so I just think him at 25 is just wild. Devon Achane at 26, I just think is wild. And I think Devon Achane, everyone loves the player from what he did, and he was exciting, and he's one of the most exciting players to watch. And I get it. Listen, I think he is going to be a good running back. I think he's going to be, running back 13, 14, right? I think that's kind of where I've got him. I've got him there with like James Cook. And I'm okay with that. This board has him at running back 7, and I think that's heavily aggressive. A player who couldn't stay fit, and you still got Raheem Mostert on that roster who will vulture a lot of touchdowns. DJ Moore at wide receiver 20, I think is madness. You've got Keenan Allen there. I just don't see that volume going to him. Cooper Kupp at wide receiver 21. So when you look in the context of wide receiver 21, you think, okay, that's not too bad. But he's going at pick 28, which is just madness. Stephon Diggs, we've talked about on this show. Wide receiver 22, he's going at pick 29. Madness. How he goes above Tank Dell, and it could only be Tank Dell's recovery, that there must be someone that the people that are just a bit worried. But in what world drafters are taking Diggs over Dell? I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Makes no logic to me. Whatever. But and the flip side of this is that drafters at the moment have 3 Houston wide receivers finishing in the top 26. You're on mute.
This happened to me last week. I didn't talk and it muted me. Do you think this is because we see drafters now want a piece of this Houston pie, and as soon as the first one goes, that's it? People feel like they have to grab the other 2 instantly.
Yeah, I don't get the Stephon Diggs one. I can get Dell. I'm well on board with Dell going in that 20 range, a bit higher. I'm fine with. I'm not reaching to get Diggs. I pass on that. I just think that's mad. You have in the same round, you have Diggs and Dell going. You have Collins going around before that. That to me is madness.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute madness to me. I also think DK Metcalf going where he is a bit bonkers. He's a player that's never returned a wide receiver 1 season. I don't think he's like a huge reach in where we're talking about here. I have him at wide receiver 22. So where is he on this board? Wide receiver 20. So yeah, range wise, I'd probably have him there. But I think taking him in the top 30, and this is where I think there will be some reset balance of these wide receivers coming through. Running backs coming through. I think it will address this balance. I don't like DK Metcalf as a 3rd round pick. As a 4th round pick, I'm fine. I think when you add a few running backs here, the 2 biggest steals of this draft are right here at 31 and 32. Kyron Williams at 31 is absolutely mad. And Michael Pittman Jr. at 32 is absolutely mad. And even Zay Jones. I'll have all 3 of those players before anyone else in this round.
Do you mean Zay Flowers?
Yeah, sorry. What did I say? Zay Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I meant Zay Flowers. I will take all 3 of those players over anyone else in this round, and I wouldn't think twice. Yeah. And I'll take them in that order, by the way. Williams, Pittman, Flowers.
Which is why I thought the end of the first or middle to end of the first is much better than...
If this ADP holds, you can build a cracking team. So I have Williams as my 4th running back. And people are worried about Blake Corum far too much. We've talked about this. I think Blake Corum is the most similar type of running back to Kyron Williams as there was. And I think they're all in on Kyron Williams. And I know people are going to say, well, then Gurley had a great season and then he got ditched. And then Cam Akers came in and he got ditched. I think that they struck gold with Kyron Williams. They found someone and a type of quarterback or running back in their system that works. And I think they drafted a player who is as similar to Kyron Williams as you can get because they like that style of back. So, and they didn't pay a lot for him in draft capital. And I sit there and think, where's he going to take opportunity from Kyron Williams? It's not like he's a different type of player. Now, if they drafted someone like a Bucky Irving, I'll go, oh, okay, well, Bucky Irving's a completely different running back. He's probably better at, with the ball in his hands, and you can dial up some gadget plays, and you can see where he could take 15, 20% of that workload. I think Kyron Williams is a bell cow back, and I could be dead wrong, and that's fine. But I don't think I am, and until I see otherwise, I think Kyron Williams is a bell cow, and I think you can ride that gravy train all the way to a championship in the 3rd round. And I think Michael Pittman, I'm exactly the same viewpoint on him as a wide receiver. I have him, right up there with pretty much AJ, just under AJ Brown. I couldn't draft more of Michael Pittman this year if I try. You've got a really exciting Colts offense with Anthony Richardson. You got Jonathan Taylor, who's going to move the ball. You have, Pittman, who is just got paid as an elite wide receiver, by the way. And then to cap this all off, you've got Shane Steichen, who is one of the best offensive-minded coaches in football. I'd go as far to say that he is like, it's Andy Reid, then it's Shane Steichen. That is how highly I rate. And people will say, well, what about McVay? All right, you can throw McVay in there. But that's how highly I have Shane Steichen. Like, Shane Steichen left the Eagles looked dreadful. Like, they looked lost on offense without him. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just think I want in on that as much as possible. Zay Flowers, great rookie season. I think they're only going to get better, and they're going to have a proper run game with Derrick Henry, who comes in at 36 in this round. So the end of the round is Sam Laporta, can't argue that, 34, Tank Dell, 35, Derrick Henry, 36. Like, I like the rest of that. I think that's fine. Derrick Henry at RB9 feels about right. Like, I'm not going to split hairs. I think that's about where I've got him. As a running back after him, I would take, but over him. But that's because I'm higher on this particular running back than everybody in the world right now.
Not everybody.
Well, I think so, but we'll see. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think you covered it. I think this will obviously change. I think more running backs will go, as you mentioned, but I think I want to be at the end of the third round if it all falls like this. I
Oh
think the
yeah,
stability of the players that you get here is far greater than a CMC and
well,
then a who knows what
but I think if
at
you're in the
24.
middle, I think I'd rather be in the middle because
Yeah, I meant sort of
on ADP this would be deemed a reach to take one of those three players. But I don't. But it's not a reach. Like I will
no,
take those players in the middle of the third. And I think the difference is why I'd rather be in the middle is you're in control of that. You have to hope that people aren't on the same plan in the same thought process as you. So if you're at the back end of the third, you have to hope that people are drafting off ADP to get what you want. If you're in the mid third, I don't think people are going to jump half a round, one round on these players. They should,
yeah.
but they won't.
Maybe I misspoke and I meant I would rather be
I get what you're
second
saying.
half. I would not the end, but I want to be second half as opposed to first half.
Yeah, and I'm
Which
okay
is
with that.
which is massively unusual because normally you want to be in that first five players, right? You want to grab in previous years we'd have wanted to be within the first five picks. It gives you a greater chance of winning overall statistically, but I'm not sure this year. I think I'd rather be back half.
Yeah, I would say sort of I'd like to be in the middle. If I can get a pick around pick 6, pick 7, I'm probably quite happy with that. I'd probably take
Yeah.
that more often than not. I'm going to mute.
Murph, if you are not watching, Murph has just done the most spectacular tissue sneeze you have ever seen. Come and watch just for those sort of visuals, my friend.
Don't do that. Right, we'll do the next round. So the next round is Travis Kelce, which I get. Josh Allen, fine. Jalen Hurts, I get that. T. Higgins, I think, is a bit high. Christian Kirk, I love that in that range. Amari Cooper, okay. George Pickens, I love there. I think Travis Etienne is huge value there.
Massive value.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson, Trey McBride is tight end 3, I think is wild. People are high. You're expecting a high volume there. And I'm just a bit. I don't know how. Again, we talked about Arizona. I completely forgot about Trey McBride. I don't know how you can draft Marvin Harrison that high and then have Trey McBride this high. Because the argument is that they're going to be force-fed a lot of targets. There is enough for both of them, but not you're basically taking. But you're saying both players are going to be at the top end of the ceiling of target share, and I don't think that's quite the case. I think you're going to have Marvin Harrison at a 30% target share, and for this to happen with Trey McBride to be tight end 3, he's going to need about a 30% target share, 28% target share. So do you see both those players getting 58% of the ball?
Statistically impossible, but
well, it's possible, but yeah, I don't see it. So I have a bit of an issue with that one. And then there's some strange picks here. There's some absolutely strange picks. Terry McLaurin at 47, Isaiah Pacheco 48, Hollywood Brown at 49. Okay. Mark Andrews, don't mind. Patrick Mahomes, I'm out this year on Patrick Mahomes at price. And then you get a bit more sort of sensibleness. Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen, Dalton Kincaid, Jaden Reed, Anthony Richardson. I don't mind that at QB5. It's about where I've got him. Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Xavier Worthy. Okay. James Cook, don't mind. I'm going to now tell you, because I'm conscious of time, the biggest value on this board. And you're going to have to scroll all the way down to pick 73.
I was worried you were going to say Joe Mixon at 61 then. I thought surely not. But no. We've moved on swiftly.
Yeah.
Pick 73. I mean, it's outrageous. You got him last week at a steal in what, third round?
Fifth round.
Now fifth round. Okay. I let you
I
get
think I got him in
the
the fifth round. Now I'm going to have to go check because it might have been. I don't think I pulled the trigger on the third. If I did, I'm okay with it, but I feel like I got him in the 4th or the 5th round. Let's have a look. I got him on last week's draft when I find the draft board. I took him in the. I did the 3rd round. I took him at the 3-5.
Excellent.
I mean, that's aggressive, but I'm okay with that because of that. I genuinely have him. We talked about this last week as the RB6.
Alvin Kamara, ladies and gentlemen, pick 73.
It's just
running back 17.
I don't get it. I mean, he finished RB11 last year and he missed 3 games due to suspension.
Yeah.
So in what world are we sitting here saying that he is not going to do that? I don't get it. I don't get in what world we're in that is. These are his numbers, right, in his career, and let's just take the receiving numbers, okay? He caught. This is his career: 81 catches, 81 catches, 81 catches to start his career. Then he went up to 83. Then he missed 4 games and dipped to 47. This is when Peyton left. So we had the first year of Dennis Allen. It was all a bit wishy-washy. Then he played 15 games. He climbed to 57 catches. And again, I think he played hurt the back end of that year. And then last year, he played 13 games. He caught 75 balls. So if he played a couple more games, he'd had his best ever catching year. Where Dennis Allen's like, I better try something different. Okay, it doesn't work. I'm just going to go back to just pounding Alvin Kamara with the ball in the air. And I get it. He doesn't get a lot of receiving touchdowns. I don't really care. In the PPR league, he's going to get 75. I've got him at 80 catches, which I don't feel is that excessive. I have him on 3 receiving touchdowns. I don't feel that's excessive. I have him at 547 yards. I don't feel that's excessive. He got 466 last year. So I get it. I don't have him getting a lot of volume, a lot of yardage, but I get him. I get the big difference I have is I have him getting 800 yards on the ground. He did 694 last year. He's only ever been below 800 3 times, which was his rookie year in 2019, and then in last season when he only played 13 games. So
is there a world, Murf? Go on. I think you're right. I think they are conservative considering how good he has been and what we know he can do in that offense. Is there a world where you might potentially pick an RB in your 1st or 2nd round pick with 2 stud wide receivers and then just punch Alvin Kamara's ticket in the 4th, knowing you've basically got 4 studs?
Yeah.
Because it's not a reach because you know what he can do, right? It's a reach based on ADP, but we went through this last year. ADP's whack anyway, and it's only a reach if other people think it. If you can back that up with why, it's not a reach.
His ADP is RB17. I don't get it. The other players well out here is Rachaad White. His RB is his ADP is RB15. They make no sense. You have Joe Mixon over them. You have Josh Jacobs over them. You have Isaiah Pacheco over them. I don't get it. I don't get these ADPs at all, in some of these. I just think if Alvin Kamara is there in the 4th round and you pass on him, you're doing it wrong.
Do you think there's a world where he's just not a world? Do you think he's been forgotten?
I just think people don't like. There is this thing in Twitter or fantasy football folklore that when you get to 28, you're done. And they're like, you're 28 years old, therefore you are finished as a running back. So that's it. The wheels come off at 28. This is the same community that is crowning Christian McCaffrey, age 28, as the 101. So you're going to beat Alvin Kamara over the stick of, well, he's 28. Like, here's why I'm not buying into the decline of Alvin Kamara, which some people are. I don't even think people are talking about. I think it's either forgotten about or they just want new hotness. Is New Orleans did not really invest in offense in the draft or free agency.
No.
Like, they didn't really go crazy. And when I mean offense, I mean skill positions is what I mean by that. They had very few picks to begin with. They went offensive line in round 1. They got a tackle, which they needed. Then they went corner. They took Spencer Rattler in the 5th round, whatever. And then they took Bub Means from Pittsburgh at pick 170, where he's not really threatening the starting roster. And then they took a linebacker, defensive tackle, and another offensive tackle in the 7th round. That tells me they're pretty happy with where they are on offense. And that means they're going to run exactly the same offense they ran last year, which was just everything went through Alvin Kamara. The guy finished RB11 because he missed 4 games. 3 of them suspended.
Do you want to know what I think about this?
Yeah, go on then.
I think this shows that more people than ever currently are drafting on ADP from the thing they are using. So, for instance, if they are on Sleeper, they click on they think they need a running back. They click on the running back tab, and then there's 4 or 5 wide receivers there. They choose one of those, as opposed to selectively looking for value or players that are not where they should be.
Yeah.
Like Alvin Kamara. The reason he is so low is because people aren't drafting him because he isn't on that list.
Yeah, I mean that could make sense, or that the people here have already selected a running back and therefore they're like, yeah, we're just going to do RB late because it's the strategy. So they've taken their hero RB and then they just stockpiling. I mean, I think it's wild that he's in a range with Kenneth Walker that low. I mean, I'm lower than Walker, as I said last week, so like the community's there with me a bit on there. I can't get on board. I can't get on board with him there at 17. It doesn't make any sense to me. The other one, Ramondre Stevenson at 20, I don't get either. I just think it's mad. Like, but I mean, listen, I hope it holds up. If these ADPs go in the redraft, I'm either going to win a lot of titles or I'm going to be, people are going to laugh at me. Because I snag these players too. I'm looking at ADP values here. So, like, for me, 71, I'll go, or 73 for Alvin Kamara. I'm quite happy to take him 30 picks higher than that. And I won't lose any sleep over it. Because that puts him at 43. There's 48 picks. That's middle of the 4th round. Is pick 43. So, if I have to reach 30 picks to go and get Alvin Kamara, yeah, you betcha I'm in. Don't worry about that. I'll punch that ticket. Evan Ingram at 76. Yeah, I'll reach there. No worry about that. Ramondre Stevenson at 84. Yeah, I'll reach 25 picks to go and get him. Yeah, don't worry about that. Rashad White, I think he's 25 picks too low. I'll reach. You'll find you can have. These are the players you can get in the range of Rashad White right now. Kyle Pitts, CJ Stroud. If you need a quarterback, fine. Ramon Dunze, well, he's not going to do anything in his rookie year. Good luck. DeAndre Hopkins, I'm sorry to say this, I think he's probably done. Keon Coleman in Buffalo, yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, wide receiver 40 opportunity, yeah, I don't hate it. Jordan Addison, who, Lad McConkey, Now, I'm in on Deontay Johnson at 70, like, yeah, okay, cool. Deontay Johnson, Kenneth Walker, George Kittle, he only plays a handful of games and doesn't get any touchdowns, so, yeah. Brian Thomas.
Yeah, but these players are all at their point of, but none of these players at their peak are Alvin Kamara. Peak Alvin Kamara.
No. So, like, I'm not going to go through every player. You can go and look at this. The players who I think here are massively undervalued. I think we've talked to a couple there. I think James Cook at 60 is undervalued, but he's RB13, which isn't that bad. So you have to assume that all these are going to shoot up the board a bit. I think Rashad White RB15 is undervalued. I think Keon Coleman at wide receiver 40 is undervalued. I think Deontay Johnson at wide receiver 43 is criminally undervalued. Like, I think that's insane. So the argument that we're going to give onto why Marvin Harrison is going to be so good, other than the fact he's a generational talent, is there's no one really to get the ball other than Trey McBride, who we're going to say is the third best tight end on volume. Deontay Johnson has, for competition, running backs who don't catch the ball, Adam Thielen, who is on one leg, and I think that's about it. They don't really have a tight end of any note. Jonathan Brooks isn't going to be back for half a season, probably. Maybe a bit earlier. And you've got Dave Canales, who does improve players. Wide receiver 43 is so cheap.
Yeah.
I'd snap Deontay Johnson. I think he's a wide receiver 2 at worst. I'm snapping there. Kenneth Walker at 16. I guess. Alvin Kamara at 17 is a steal. I love the upside of Christian Watson at wide receiver 45. I think if he stays healthy, he's an absolute stud. How Evan Ingram is a tight end 8, I'll never know. They lose Calvin Ridley out of that room. They lose Zay Jones out of that room. And they replace them with Brian Thomas, who's going to take a bit of time to get up to speed. And that's it. And he's going to lose targets. All right. Yeah, sure. I'll take him well before tight end 8. Don't worry about that. David Montgomery at running back 18 is probably right, but in this range where he's going in drafts, pick 79. If he's still on the board at pick 79, I'm definitely spinning that up. Jameson Williams at wide receiver 48, I think is going to be good value there.
Yep.
Marjorie Stevenson, RB20 is going to be good value. Zamir White at RB24 doesn't feel that bad. I'd take a spin on that price. In the hope that he ends up producing something good.
Do we think, like, Zamir White at Georgia, like, they don't call him Zeus for no reason, right? But is he a bell cow back? Has he got a season of football?
No, but the man behind him is Alexander Mattison, who's garbage. So, I don't think he's the bell cow, but I think he's better than RB24 on volume alone. I think you have to look at the opportunity there and think volume, especially at the running back position, is so much more important. Like, I'm not sitting here and predicting that he's going to have an unbelievable, incredible season. But I see a world where he massively outperforms RB24, and I'm okay with that. I just don't see a world where Alexander Mattison is putting him under as much pressure.
Any pressure.
Well, I think he gets some touches to rotate. But I have him sort of level, by the way, with like Ramondre Stevenson and Josh Jacobs. That's kind of the realm. And Isaiah Pacheco. It's kind of the realm I've got them all in. So, I'm clearly a bit higher on him than most, and I'm okay with that because I think I'll get him at a good price. Yeah. I mean, the rest of these, I don't think there's loads of. James Conner RB27. I get it. He's old. He probably will fall apart, but he hasn't got any real competition straight off the bat. I'm probably snapping him before there. Tajay Spears, I think, at RB32 is going to be good value. Brian Robinson Jr. is another one. He's RB34. He's the starting running back. He's the starting running back.
That's crazy.
It's like, they signed Austin Eckler. Brian Robinson Jr. is screwed. Did anyone watch Austin Eckler last year? Austin Eckler is a glorified receiver. Yep. He ain't going to be running the ball all that much. Don't you worry. Madness. Dallas Goedert at the Titan 12, I feel, is good value. Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is wide receiver 58.
What?
Yeah, snap that. And Gus Edwards, the Gus bus at running back 36. And Adonai Mitchell, by the way, wide receiver 60. I want any piece of this Colts offense. So if I can get if I can get a piece at wide receiver 60, I'm in.
I'm getting you a Colts t-shirt for this year. You are horseshoed up.
I don't hate the Colts. I've never have. They've always been kind of like, if I had to pick a team in the AFC, it would be close to that. But yeah,
it's very doldrumy now, isn't it? From here on in, it is very doldrumy.
Yeah, I think my point is on this is like, let me give you an example. Gus Edwards is going 2 picks before Blake Corum,
who is not a starting running back.
No, it's just mad. Jerome Ford is going 2 picks after Blake Corum. These values are whack. Bottom line is they will change. You'll get, but having said that, I think the point of this exercise is obviously we can see that running backs will come off the board, wide receivers go down the board, but I don't necessarily think the rankings of these players are going to go too far from where they are now. I think Devon Achane is going to be a faller. I don't see him staying RB7. But I guess the other point of this is, and I said this at the start, the reason we did this is people have got money on this. So there is savviness to this. On the flip side of that, these are people that are trying to win big money tournaments and are therefore trying to create variance.
Mm.
And so therefore are trying to shoot for the moon, are trying to shoot for the best possible outcome, but they're taking heavily risk-based approaches. And so actually, when you factor in a little bit of safety with some of these players and you look at the overall spectrum of outcome, some of these safer floor players are going to climb up boards. Kyron Williams, I think, will climb up boards. Michael Pittman Jr. will climb up boards. Tank Dell will climb up boards. Christian Kirk will climb up boards. I can't see Christian Kirk being drafted as a wide receiver 3. I think that's mad. So, and Alvin Kamara, if Alvin Kamara is going at the RB17, he's going to be on every single one of my teams. I'm going to have him everywhere. Like literally, he'll be my most owned player. He'll be on 100% of my teams. Even if I've got 4 running backs, I'm still taking Alvin Kamara there as a first running back. I tell you that for free right now. Anyone drafting with me, I'm not letting him go at pick 73. I'm not letting him go below pick 48. It ain't happening.
If you want yourself some Kamara, everyone.
Yeah, I just put everyone on notice. He can't fall into the 50s. He can't. He is a top. So if I take the quarterback scoring out, I have him overall. I have him as a top 12 scoring player this year.
If you want Alvin Kamara and you're drafting with Murf, you're going to have to take him at the start of the 4th.
No,
or before.
You're going to have to take him in the 3rd round. You're going to have to. And I still think that's a great price.
I don't disagree. But anyway, I think it is steal of the day.
Is there anything you've learned tonight from this exercise that you want to share?
This has to be wrong. This has to be wrong. The thing I have learned, not for me, don't just go onto Fantasy Pros. If you need ADP, don't just go onto Fantasy Pros and use their ADP as gospel. Because I know it does happen. The casual player will just type in ADP, Fantasy Pros will come up first or whatever, and they'll use that. And without necessarily scrolling down and looking for a said Alvin Kamara character is what I'm getting at. Have a look through and surmise some kind of plan rather than just using it as a list. Otherwise, you will miss out on the value of an Alvin Kamara or somebody like that based on the ADP you're using at that moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think my lessons to people this year, we'll get into some shows where we'll do some lessons, are very much a case of the sharper players in the room will know that you're drafting off Fantasy Pros ADP. And they will know where you're drafting from. If you're drafting off Sleeper ADP, if you're drafting off Fantasy Pros ADP, if you're drafting off of a particular set of rankings, the smarter players in the room will work that out. And when they work that out, you're in a bit of trouble. Because effectively, it's like playing poker, but you've got your cards face up. and everybody else. But that is what it is. You know,
Yeah,
you have to look at that and say that if you are doing that, you are playing with your cards face up. If people work out where you're drafting from and what your strategy is. Now, the reason that we talk about being different and going against the consensus and contrarian, we use the term quite a lot, is it's unpredictable. It's unpredictable. It makes it much harder for people to understand what you're doing. And we've had over the years, we've talked so much about draft roster construction. We've talked so much about vertical boards and horizontal boards. Maybe that's the show we do next week. We do a draft, you and I, we use the horizontal and vertical boards of projections to do that, to demonstrate how that works in practice, where you combine your rankings or a set of rankings with ADP, with draft knowledge to pick a good team. And we talk through every draft decision we make off that. And that will combine roster construction, watching ADP, and your projections and tiers. And we do that live as an exercise. Because I think if we do that, we can show people really how you become fluid in drafts properly, where I think I've talked about this more times than I care to count. If you go into a draft and you tell people that you've been sniped, you've just given away a useful piece of intelligence. Oh, okay. So you value that player there. So if I can work out what set of rankings or what set of values that you're on, but then also what you've told me is you're picking on position, or you're picking on favorite players. So when you go into a draft and if you do it more than once, then you give away your position. You tell people what you're drafting. So don't tell people that you've been sniped. You'll never ever see me in a draft say I've been sniped. And also, I don't believe you can be sniped. If you're fluid in a draft, you can't get sniped because there isn't a set defined pick. Unless it's Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round or 4th round. That might be because his ADP is so out of whack with the rest of the world. That might be the only case where sniping is appropriate. Where you sit there and think, oh, I actually wish I had Alvin Kamara in the 4th round.
Yeah.
And someone picks him because they know you're going to take him. And like, maybe I shouldn't give away that crucial piece of information, but this is an information podcast, dude. I wouldn't be doing this right. But my point is, you're giving the room intelligence on your strategy by saying you've been sniped.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to take a wide receiver next. Okay, good to know. And you just give away key pieces of information that people can put together and work out what you're doing. And so I famously in a draft a couple of years ago, someone was picking before or after me, right? And he said to me, I think after about 5 rounds, you've sniped me every round. And it's like, I really hate drafting next to you because it's like you know who I'm picking. And do you know what my response to him was? Because I know who you're going to pick. Because I know you're drafting off the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings.
Yeah. And
so if I have a player valued there, like there was an example where I took a player in the high 4th that I could have on ADP got in the 5th, but I knew that he was going to take him on the next 2 picks based off the Fantasy Pros consensus. So if I want this player on my team, I'm going to have to take him. And he was livid because he's like, ADP was a 5th round player, and I took him in the 4th. And he was like, I just can't believe you did that. Like, he's not going anywhere on boards there. It's like, because I knew you were going to take him. So I know he's not coming back to me in the 5th. So I have to go get my guy. And I know where you're drafting from. You're drafting from the consensus. So that's fine. Now I know that. I know where I have to make my moves. And so I just sniped him because he wanted players that I wanted, and he was going to pay the quote-unquote market rate for them. So I had to get ahead of him to do that. What it meant was I ended up with the team that he wanted. And that team did rather well. But I wasn't drafting off the consensus. I just had players in my view But because I knew he was drafting off the consensus, I knew where I had to take them. So it was like I was playing with his queue in front of me.
Yeah.
And then it's just harsh. It's really, really harsh. And I worked it out because of who he took in the first 2 rounds, and then the fact that he said he'd been sniped, and I was sniping him every round. And so he gave me all that intel, and he made it really, really easy. And he's being friendly, and he's like making a congenial draft, but at the same point, he's just given me a heavy advantage.
Yeah, use that information.
Exactly that. And it goes back to that old-fashioned poker saying that if you don't know who the fish is in the room, it's you.
Yeah.
If you tell people that you're being sniped, if you tell people what you're doing, the sharks will feed up on that, and they will take advantage. Now, if you execute a strategy and it goes horribly wrong, you have to take the blame for that. But at the same token, you should be proud that you executed a strategy. Like, you went with a strategy. If it didn't work, you learn why it didn't work. But if you walked away from that draft pretty pleased with the strategy you executed, you should feel proud that you executed a strategy at all. Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people, it goes awry, they panic, and they start just picking players, and they make bad decisions, and they panic, and they don't regroup, and they're effectively on tilt. So don't be that. If you land a strategy, even if it's the wrong one, at least that's something. But hopefully the show we do next week, by doing that kind of show, we're going to try and teach you about being fluid in drafts and about how to prepare for a draft so that you have projections, so you have tiers, and you factor in ADP so that you don't get sniped. You end up with multiple options at each pick, and you make the pick that makes the most sense at each round. And it takes some training, and you'll want to do some mock drafts to get in the mood for this, and maybe some paid best balls at $1 a go or something. But once you do it, you'll be in a really good spot. And once you learn this skill, you'll be in a much better strategic head, and you'll have better drafts, and you'll be happy with the results of those drafts. And I think that's the key point.
Yeah, and it's fun. It is fun doing it that way as well, because you have to look X, Y, and Z. So
you do, and I think on the flip side, you just end up with more interesting teams.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be good. It's going to be good. That was an informative show, Murf. We started off strong all over the world. We got back on track, and we talked some ADP. It was good, and I'm looking forward to. I do like a horizontal and a vertical board because it gets my brain ticking. So next week should be good fun. Rush Nation.
If you're listening to us in Scotland, it's currently 4-0 to Germany.
Oh, how long left?
12 minutes. Actually, it was almost 5-0, but VAR intervened.
Oh no! Don't tell me that. I have a small bet on Germany winning 5-0. So another one would be fun. Sorry, Scotland. Rush Nation. That's going to do it for today's show. Welcome to the Euros. If you go on, then.
Sorry, I know we're long. Just a quick one to say that FFCC. We're still really trying to get I'm not going to shut spots this year like I normally do. But I'm trying to get to the point where we can get the minimum field required. So we're down to, I think, about 10 or 11 that we need for the bare minimum. So, but I won't shut spots after that. So get on board. Once we do that, I'll be doing our final giveaway. So we're just under £4,600 for Crohn's Colitis UK, which is awesome. I really want to get that to close to £5,000 in June. So let's have a big push. If you know anyone that you refer into the FFCC, you'll get an extra ticket for the giveaway.
There you go. Tell your friends, get them to play.
Absolutely. So let's get that sorted, and we'll go from there.
Marvelous stuff. Rush Nation, as Murf said earlier, the Alvin Kamara snipe is real. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next week. As always, don't forget, keep rushing.